Garmin have just dropped their new flagship Forerunner and it's called the Forerunner 955. This is the updated one now over the older 945, and we see some really nice updates and some new features in here which we're obviously going to take a look at. But before we get started on this one, we're actually running a pretty sweet competition where you can actually win yourself one of these, and it's pretty easy to enter. So all you have to do is like the video and comment below saying I deserve the new Forerunner 955 because ... whatever reason you think. Pop it in the comments below and you've got a chance to win this new watch. And there will be some bonus points for adding some obscure details from the video, or obviously just make it funny because, you know, that always wins. The winner will basically be our favourite response, so just make it good. As well as that, it's not just going to be me looking at this watch in this review. We've got our resident triathlete Gabs having a look as well because she's training for a big Ironman. She's been putting some training hours into this watch, so she'll give us her opinions on it too. Right, now let's get into it. We'll start with a rapid unboxing. Obviously it comes with a watch. Comes with the classic Garmin charger, cross-compatible with all the old ones. Spare little rubber strap band, which is quite a nice touch. So if you manage to lose that one, you've got a spare one. And some seriously dense, very detailed little product information, safety booklets. We'll have a look at them. So let's get started with some of these new features with the new Forerunner 955. You'll notice I've got a black and a white one here. They might look very similar at a first glance, but these are different models. And this feature is probably one of my favourite things about Garmin as a whole, and I'm so happy it's in the Forerunner range, is the fact that it now comes in a solar model. So you now have an option to get Garmin Power Glass tech in a Forerunner, which is a first. We've seen Power Glass in the Phoenix and in the Instinct range. They work phenomenally and give a real boost to your battery, especially for spending a good amount of time outdoors. This essentially works very similar, if not identically, to the Phoenix 7. So you've got a solar screen, so it gives you battery from the sun, obviously, but you've got slightly different photovoltaic levels to this screen. So you'll see it has a more shiny rim on the outside, and that's harvesting 100% of the sun's energy that hits the screen into battery. Obviously not 100% of the sun's energy because you'd have a long battery life if you had all of that. And then under the digital part of the screen, that's harvesting 10% of the energy that's hitting the screen and turning it into battery. And this actually makes a really considerable difference to the battery life of the watch. But to summarize, the solar version is going to last for 20 days in smartwatch mode, which is basically connected to your phone with notifications coming through with the heart rate on, you know, sleep data, all that sort of stuff. So 20 days in normal use, and then 49 hours of accurate GPS tracking. So that's going to be plenty for many of us to do multiple runs a week. And even those endurance athletes that are doing really long days out there, this is still going to cover you for a few of them. But you get the picture, the battery life in this thing is pretty good. It's also worth noting as well that they charge really quickly. From the watch almost being out of battery, you can get about 50% of battery in about half an hour. So if you're running really low on battery and you do want to nip out for a run or whatever activity you're going to do with it, because it records a lot of them, you can just nip it on charge even for 10 minutes and it's probably going to give you enough juice to get your activity done. So it's nice to know that you can really quickly boost these up if you're running low on battery and you need a quick top up. Another new feature that comes with the solar and the normal one, so all the 955s, is the fact that they are now touch screen. Now we saw this introduced with the Phoenix as well, and I've always been a bit iffy about touch screens on smartwatches for loads of reasons. It's just so much easier to click buttons when you're in a run or you're swimming and you can't see the screen. It's just, you get to learn the buttons really quickly. Bad weather, touch screens don't work particularly well. And this is all true, but there is some really nice features in where it does work well. So for example, when you're in a mapping scenario, you can scroll around the map with the touch screen, and it is, buttons and maps are absolutely dreadful. It's like trying to go where you want to go, it just doesn't work. It's hugely easier with a touch screen, so it does have its bonuses. I mean, I've been using Garmin's for years, so maybe it's because I'm just so used to the Garmin ecosystem of using the buttons. Might be that, but I generally find I just use the buttons almost all the time, but it is just a nice feature to use it for those maps. And as annoying as it is, when you do start using it, it's nice and responsive, it works quickly. It's, you know, it works. If you want to use it, it's there. If you don't really use it much, but completely up to you on that one. As we've just touched on it, it's worth noting that both the solar and non-solar version come with full color mapping. That's turn-by-turn navigation that you're going to get from your GPX files from Garmin Connect or Strava or wherever you get those files from. That's going to work on here for both on and off-road. Color mapping is really going to help differentiate between what you're running on, surfaces, elevation, you know, all that good stuff is now included in the 955. If you're enjoying this video and still want the chance to win one of these watches, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you like it even more, then maybe even consider hitting that subscribe button. Another nice update, and again, it's another one that's trickled down from the new Fenix 7, is the fact that these new 955s have multi-band GNSS satellite connectivity. So basically what that is, in a quick bullet point, it's going to give you far better GPS tracking, but basically what it is the fact it can have multiple connections with multiple satellites, giving you much more honed in, accurate GPS data. But where this is going to make a bigger difference to getting more accurate data is when you're in really tricky environments. So if you're in forests and data is hard to get through the forestry, the leaves, whatever's up there, alpine environments where you're in really steep scenarios and it's harder for a GPS to work out and where you actually are, and also in urban big cities where you've obviously got big buildings around you and it's much harder to get a pinpoint location. So it's going to make your data much more accurate. And you know, when you're looking at your GPS data and you really zoom in and you can see that, you know, you're not actually even running on that road that it says you're running on. This is getting so accurate now where you can even tell which side of the road you're running on. It's really making a difference to all those data metrics, because all those little imperfections are going to make your data skew if and not right. So the more accurate the data you collect, the more accurate your data is. I mean, obvious, but simple but obvious.
So I have come down to the woods today to test out the new multi-band GPS on the Garmin 955. I have to say it is connecting a lot quicker to the signal. It's really noticeable that it tracks the trail really accurately, especially in densely forested areas like I'm in right now. So another new feature on the Garmin Forerunner 955 is running power. Cyclists have been banging on about their watts and average power for years, and now it's time for us runners. Yes. Essentially, running power allows you to kind of put in the same effort and the same pace, even with external factors such as rain or hills or even like the surface underfoot. So this just means that you can really kind of measure how you're running, whether that's in training or on race day, and really keep that same power, that same effort throughout your whole distance. Running power has actually been a feature that you can download from the Garmin IQ app for a few years now. However, it is now natively installed on the watch when you get it out of the box. It's taken Garmin a couple of years to get this native on the watch, and that's because they've been continuously improving the data that you collect, such as, you know, vertical oscillation or even your ground contact time, just to give you a better accurate reading when it comes to your running on your watch. For running power to work, you will need to get yourself, if you don't already have one, a separate Garmin heart rate monitor, just that you can wear around your chest here, and you're good to go. Another new feature on the 955 is something called stamina. This feature is actually also found on one of their newer watches, the Garmin Fenix 7. Stamina kind of says what it does on the tin, and it just allows you to know how much energy you've still got left in the tank, or whether to push yourself a little bit harder. We've all gone out on race day, whether that's on the bike or running, and bonked maybe a little bit hard or a little bit early, just because we've put all of our energy into that particular activity. If you're looking at stamina though, this will actually give you a really good indication of whether you need to slow it up a little bit, or whether you can push yourself just that little bit harder to go and smash out a new PB. And who doesn't love a new PB? If you ever wake up in the morning with a pre-planned run in mind, but sometimes just don't have the energy to get up and do it, this is where training Readiness may really suit you. It basically tells you, based on your sleep, your heart rate, your stress, and all the other factors that your watch kind of picks up, whether you might be better to actually train at a different time of day. Garmin's theory is that you'll make more improvements in your training if your body is more ready for it. So it will tell you the optimum time to get out of the door and go for your run or ride or swim or triathlon, or any of the many features that this watch actually has. This follows on nicely to the new race widget that you will find on the watch as well. It will kind of give you a predicted time for a specific course that you're training for, and this is kind of based on your fitness, your training load and your recovery, as well as actually taking into account the course route itself, whether it's kind of undulating, Essentially, this will help you in the lead up to race day because it will just give you a kind of a more realistic expectation of kind of what to expect and how far and how long you're going to be running for. And it basically combines all of your training data together, which is kind of why you're training in the first place. It just gives you a really holistic view of all your data all in one place so that on race day, you can go out there and absolutely smash it. So I mentioned there that the new race widget actually takes into account the actual course itself, and this is because of a feature called Up Ahead. Up Ahead actually allows you to kind of program into the map points of interest, hills, water stations, aid stations, all of that good stuff actually into your map so you know what's coming up ahead. On many of the Garmin watches there is something called incident detection, and this kind of alerts members of your family or friends, whoever you've kind of set up in the Garmin Connect app. It will alert them if you've kind of had an incident as such. This is a very similar feature to something new called live event sharing. However, this is super positive instead. So the live event sharing actually kind of texts your friends or family, and again whoever you set up in the Garmin Connect app, it will kind of send them some information in the form of a text to let them know where you are on the course, for example, or how far you've completed so far, how far you've got left to go, anything that you want them to know when you hit certain points along your map. This is a great little feature, especially on race day, so that your friends and family can kind of track you as you're going along.
Thanks for that, Gabs. Back to the studio. So as well as that incident and sharing information, you might be thinking, what data can I record on this? There is a lot of them. So I won't list them all out. I might show it on screen actually as a quick fly through. Different profiles are, you can scroll down to the bottom and then add, and that's going to give you the option to add all these profiles so you can see them. But you've obviously got all the running ones, trail runs, loads of different cycling activities, mountain biking, gravel biking, touring, and then your classic hiking and climbing. You even got golf in there. And then you've got winter sports, and then moving on to water sports, and then a few other extra sports. I mean, I'm saying a lot of sports, but you get the idea. There's a lot of profiles on there, but that gives you a good idea that if you want to track the majority of your sports, you're going to be able to do it with this watch. For those of you that like listening to music when doing sports, you'll be happy to know this has got on-device music storage, and this is going to give you up to 500 song storage from Spotify, Amazon Music and Deezer, I believe. So you can store up to 500 songs on here and play it without your phone or any other music device near you. Obviously you'll need some headphones. Music device will be needed, but this is the music player. You get what I'm saying. Speaking about not having your phone on you, Garmin have got this great little feature that I really like and no one really talks about, but you can add a Find My Phone option. So if you've lost your phone, maybe because you've gone running, listening to music and you didn't need to take it with you, you can hold down the top left-hand menu button and then go down to Find My Phone, click it, and then your phone starts beeping wherever it is. So a nice little feature there, and it can help it if you're running late and you're like, where's my phone? As long as you've got your watch, you can find it. Ah, here it is. And in the same menu, not a new feature to Garmin, but a great feature to the watches that have it. And again, another reason not to take your phone out, which to me is a massive bonus, but it's got Garmin Pay on here. So you can sync up your card to make this work as a wireless transaction. So you can go into a shop and just tap your watch on the contactless payment machine and you're good to go. So another reason not to take your phone out. That sounds great. Leave me alone, I'm running. If you're used to Garmin watches and the Garmin ecosystem, then the watch fundamentally works very similar, if not almost the same as all the other watches out there. So you've got your up and down buttons. This is going to take you flying through your widgets, and not only do you have to use the buttons, you don't have to. You can use your finger and scroll up and down and look at all these different areas and scroll through all these highlight widgets, so you can choose fundamentally the things that you want to look at the most and have them as quick glances. You can customize all these widgets and get rid of the ones that you're not going to look at and add ones that you are. To start an activity, you just click on this start stop imprint that you can see just on the bezel there, and that's the top right hand button. You just click that and that's going to take you to where you can start your activity. You can scroll down to what activities you want to choose, highlight all the ones that you're going to be doing frequently, and then hide the ones that you're not, because let's face it, there's a lot of activities on here that we probably won't be doing. The Garmin ecosystem and the way their watches work is my favorite by quite a long way. It's just intuitive and it works. You can basically have every single notification that pings through onto your phone ping up onto your wrist, onto your watch as well. Now some people love this because they don't have to get their phone out and check it. Some people hate it because they don't want to be notified about anything extra. So completely two options that you can have on and off for whatever sort of person you are. Another one of these new notifications that you can have pop up is morning reports, and essentially what that is, it's going to give you a brief snapshot of your general well-being at that time, and that's going to take in all the data that you put into the watch, so all your training, your sleep, your stress, all that sort of stuff's going to be taken into account and give you a little morning report about how well you're doing and what you can expect to feel like for the day ahead. So fingers crossed that's good for you, because it might not be the nicest thing to wake up to saying you're going to have a bad day when you're feeling pretty bad. But at the same light, if it tells you you're going to feel good, maybe it'll make you feel better. Who knows, but an interesting one either way. So it has a new HRV status, which is heart rate variability, basically is what that stands for. And that takes in the microseconds between your heartbeat. So it's not heart rate, obviously, because Garmin have done that well for many years, but it's the variability in micro milliseconds between your heartbeats. And this is all pretty new to me and I don't know much about it, but it's something to do with the fact that an actual very regular beating heart isn't a very healthy one. And if your heart's just ticking over exactly the same on the beat, that can actually account for you being quite stressed. So it's going to be analysing your heart in more data than ever before and telling you about it. So be aware of that. There's definitely a lot more to that, and I've just skimmed the top of heart rate variability and all the data and how it affects you and why it changes and all this stuff. But we'll probably make a video on that separately because it's a really interesting topic. And again, it's really nice to see that these watches can now read that.
So we thought we would just show you how big the Garmin 955 looks on both of our wrists. My wrist is typically described as slender. It's about 16 centimeters around. It does look pretty big, but I quite like that because I can really see all the numbers and the data in detail. But let's see what it looks like on James's wrist as well.
And I've got your average sort of 19 centimeter male wrists. I think that's pretty normal. And this is how it looks on mine. Obviously it looks a little bit smaller compared to Gabs's, but again, that gives you a good idea of how it looks on a fairly average male wrist. So it's also worth mentioning that the 955 connects to a whole host of sensors and accessories. So on the bike side, it connects to speed, cadence, power, as well as it connecting to the new Vario range, which we've done a review on here. Yes, so check that out. And then on the running side,
you can connect it to your heart rate monitor, which I mentioned earlier in the video. You will need to be able to get up your data for stamina and the new running power. You can also connect it to running pods too. So the Garmin 955 will retail at around £520.
And if you want to get the solar edition, you're going to be charged an extra 80 quid for that, so it's going to be just a penny shy of £600.
Overall, I'm a really big fan of the Garmin 955. It genuinely does seem like the perfect runner's watch, and if you're into triathlon like myself, then you will also find all the multi-sport options really good too. There's just so much data packed into here, but my favourite new feature kind of has to be the updated dual band or multi-band GPS. It's just super accurate, and especially at the start of a race now, when often you're trying to connect and it is really busy, it just connects straight away. So yeah, a really big one from me.
I'm going to be boring and go with the solar. It's definitely not a boring feature. I've got a problem with battery life basically, and that's why I use an Instinct, because it's just got the most insane battery, especially with the solar chucked in there. So not a new feature from Garmin, but it's still my favourite. But more importantly, what do you think to the new features? And if there's anything that we haven't covered, because we think we've basically covered it all, anything extra you want to know, drop it in the comments and we'll be sure to answer your questions.
Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.